Hi there, welcome to Chris's take on managing conflict. Now, as we navigate this life, it's just inevitable, isn't it? So today I've got 6 tips and observations for you should you get into a situation where you need to manage your conflict. So first point there, as I just alluded to, is it's absolutely inevitable with human beings when they come together, whether it's a business, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a sports team, we are all different. So it is absolutely inevitable. And in some senses, it's quite naive to imagine life without conflict. So if you find yourself there, chill out, relax, it's going to happen. Let's move on to the next tip. So this is really understanding that to a large extent managing conflict can be a professional skill, and it's important to get a process to follow through in order to guide both parties, or if there's more than 2 parties, 3 parties, 4 parties, through a process. And there's many great processes out there in change and conflict management that are available. I personally have got a simple 4-step process, which I'll talk about perhaps in another video coming up shortly. So get a process and follow it, and also focus on those facts. Now the facts can be different, can't they, in sense of the perception and the reality between different parties, but it's crucial to hone in on what is the factual representation, what occurred, what was said, what was written down, and that's a great starting point. So through conflict, there is an acceptance and a criticality of gaining commitment to change. A little bit like coaching in that sense. There's got to be an on-the-bus feeling. Say, yeah, I accept what's happened. I am prepared to change. So unless you have that commitment to change and managing conflict, it's going to be real tough. You can't drag that horse to the water. You need to establish that commitment openly and honestly amongst all parties. Now, in order to tap into our emotional well-being, it's, in my view, very important to show a little bit of vulnerability. And that's crucial, so we can all level each other on our humility and our vulnerability. And that can very often bring parties together. Obviously, if there's vehemence and power and brutality in that process, that vulnerability is highly unlikely to happen. So share that vulnerability if you can. It takes a skilled artisan, facilitator or coach to bring parties into sharing a bit of vulnerability, and perhaps have a bit of humour as well. We're all fallible, we're all vulnerable at the end of the day. So just following on from that, it's really important within negotiations and managing conflict to accept and recognise another party's point of view. Even if you don't agree with that point of view, it's getting into their world. I was taught a few years ago the phrase, I can only pick you up at your bus stop. So I can only come to your bus stop and have a look around and understand it, and then pick you up from that doorstop. So if you can engage and describe and get really detailed, if you like, on establishing worldviews, you come to a level of acceptance, and the more acceptance you have, the more mirror and matching you will have within those worldviews, and potentially more likely to accept those views. And finally, so within any interaction, whether it's a conversation, a meeting, it's important to clarify what occurred through that process of managing conflict. What occurred in that conversation? Even if it's just a coffee down at a coffee bar where you've talked about something quite sensitive, follow it up with an email, maybe just a couple of bullet points. Clarify the thinking, and also clarify the intent to act that was verbalized by the parties within that managing conflict session. And then there comes the big A, the accountability, because without that we're really quite stuffed. Unless we've got an accountability to recognize that we must have change through this conflict process, the chances are we won't follow through with that change. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you took something from the video on managing conflict. I'll see you soon.